Hi, welcome to Infusion, the podcast. I'm comedian Chris Patrick, a.k.a. Self-Proclaimed Power Man, and I'm here with my co-host and significant other, Rach.
Hey, people.
And today we got a special show. We got a kind of a family podcast today. We got our oldest daughter, one of our oldest daughters, Zoe Johnson, and our oldest son, Denzel Johnson. So, Zoe, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
And Denzel, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And Rach, we got a special show. We're talking about something that's very sensitive, but also something that's that needs to be talked about with Pride Festival coming up. So, Rach, what are we talking about? Take it away.
So, yeah, with Pride Festival coming up, we are going to be talking about the LGBT community, and we're going to be talking through the decades. With Ellie Krug coming up in just a couple days, we got her, and we will have her on the podcast in just 2 days.
Okay, Ellie Krug. Who is Ellie Krug?
So she's transgender on AM Talk Radio. So you got her to talk with us.
Ellie Krug hosts a show called Ellie 2.0. I think it's on Saturdays at 10 or 11. You can check AM 950 AM on the web and find out when her show is. But she talks about exclusivity and being a transgender person and work. And she also does classes. She also teaches classes and goes and talks on the subject of transgender people. And she will be coming on our show, and we can't wait to have her.
Just 2 days. So, you guys, today is Tuesday, and she will be on our podcast in 2 days, Thursday. So, anyways, going on, we got our two kids here. We are going to be talking about LGBTQ and through the decades. We're going to start with Philadelphia, the movie.
Now, Philadelphia, that's with Tom Hanks and Antonio Banderas. And we all know the song, Streets of Philadelphia, by Bruce Springsteen.
Yes, you're very right. Sorry about that. Okay. So, yes. So at that time, everybody was in the world was worried about AIDS. It was starting to come out. Everybody was scared about it.
Okay. Philadelphia is about a lawyer.
Yes.
Tom Hanks plays a lawyer, and what happens is that he contracts AIDS, and he loses his job. Nobody will take the case, and he finds this one lawyer. He's not really a big, rich, expensive lawyer or anything like that, but he finds this lawyer to take the case, and the lawyer is played by Denzel Washington.
Yes, you're right. So, continuing on, at that time, in the world, people were worried about AIDS. People wouldn't even give each other hugs. It was like a plague.
Yeah, we didn't know then what we know now.
Exactly. It took Michael Magic to come out and really shine a light on the community with AIDS. To really say, it's not as fearful as it is, and people started looking at it of a different light, and then people started looking at the LGBTQ community in a different light, and even today, 2021, people are still looking at the community. Not as bad as back then, but there's still problems, and that's why we brought our kids onto the podcast today.
Okay, and Zoe, what do you have to say about this subject?
As being bi.
Okay, you say you're bi.
Yes.
And how old are you?
I am 17.
17. And when did you? Because most girls I knew at 17. Let's just say I was trying to do boy things. But anyways, how did you know, and when did you come to grips, or when did you find out that you may be like that? You may be bi.
It happened in 8th grade when I was at school, and I just really found myself falling for this girl. And it was kind of weird because I've never looked at girls that way. Because I was kind of raised, and nothing too against my family. I love my family, and they're really supportive to the LGBTQ community. Mm-hmm. But I found it as a wrong thing to do. If I ended up falling in love, or if I ended up going in a relationship, I was gonna be, the Christian way of join hell. I don't know how to say that.
Well, I'd have to say because of the church we were in at the time,
Which was
we were coming off of Jehovah Witness, going into uncongregationalist. We weren't quite yet in Science of Mind.
okay. You weren't okay. Well, it's Science
New
of
Thought, yes.
Science of Mind is a book by Ernest Holmes, and he that's one of the books that we use in our church, Centers for Spiritual Living in Minneapolis, and we teach from the Science of Mind. But the name of the religion is the New Thought religion. Oprah's kind of dabbled in it. Michael Beckwith, Barbara Marx Hubbard, a lot of people. Also, Ralph Waldo Emerson, who also was a big, and Phineas Quimby, who was also a big supporter and a big pusher of the New Thought movement.
So yeah, back to you, Zoe. Just because we were studying those religions at that time, I think probably kind of like craved what, created what you were feeling at that time. Yeah. Not really your family sources.
No.
Because your aunt has married a woman. Yes?
Yeah, she has.
So
your aunt's married a woman. Your cousin is married a guy. Rachel's cousin is him and the two they're gay, and they just adopted a son. And her sister.
No, he didn't adopt a son. They had a son.
They had a son. I guess they had a son through a surrogate.
Absolutely, yes.
I should be more connected with my own family. but you're 17 and you say you're bi. Okay. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But how is it being like that in high school nowadays? Because you got to look at me. Okay, I'm a straight man. But back in the day, if you play, well, we call it play for the other team or whatever. But if you were gay back in the day, because we had to take showers at gym, and let's just say you kept it hush hush because you might get beat up or something like that, and you didn't bring that up. But I noticed that a lot more, and I see it a lot more in high schools and stuff like that. That a lot of kids are this way, and it's a lot more accepting than when, like I said, back in my day, you get beat up, but it's a lot more accepting now than it was. Back in my day, back in the 80s.
So, what's actually weird is I met this girl at a I forgot what it's called, but they had this kind of community at school for WINs at I think it was the end of WIN or any WIN, and we would just support LGBTQ, other cultures, and so on and so forth, and I feel like people can be very open at school, but I also, I've never had it, but people can still be offensive. And, actually, it wasn't me, but I was in ceramics, and this girl that I know, and I won't tell your name for confidential reasons, but these two boys were throwing around, really offensive slurs to the LGBTQ community, and, she's a supporter of that community, so I can't speak for her, but after hearing what she had just gone through about hearing those kind of things, my heart literally broke because it's still around, but I feel like it might just be more quiet.
Well, I don't know about quiet, but it's not as hurtful as it was back then. I think there's movies like Love, Simon that are helping it become that it's not okay, right? That it's bullying.
Yeah, but I would still say the words do hurt.
I never said that it didn't hurt. But what I'm saying is that there's the movie Love, Simon is showing people that do not silence it. It's bullying.
Yeah, definitely. And she did tell the teacher, and that's how I found out because she did tell. So.
One of the things with me growing up, hearing about this and hearing about the gay community and stuff like that, because we were boys, we were out trying to get women, and that's the way all my friends were, and we had these conversations I think so and so may be, but even then, one of the things I never understood is gay bashing. It's wait a minute, you're beating up somebody because you don't agree with it's none of your business who they sleep with. No, they're not sleeping with anybody, and that's on both sides. long as they don't sleep with anybody underage, anything like that. Denzel, you kind of been kind of quiet. What's your take on all this?
It's been the same way. Like, it was very like quieted, but like even when I was in high school, it wasn't.
Now, you went to a different high school than your sisters. You went to a very quiet school because you went in rural and she went in city, right?
Exactly. It wasn't showcase bullying, but I could see like a couple of like people that I wish I could go back in time and could been friends with, who were outcasts pretty much, because like they had their still friends, but like they were pretty much outcasted because it was a small school, but it still was. I pretty much had to stay quiet at the time because at the time, all I knew that I was at least bisexual myself.
Now, what do you refer yourself as?
Myself, in the LGBTQ, I am, for my sexuality, I am polysexual, which means that I have a preference to women, but any gender I do find very attractive, ultimately. But for my gender, which is something that most of my siblings don't have to deal with, is that I'm demisexual, which means that I'm non-binary sometimes, as well as being male. So,
now, for people that are just listening to this and don't understand the community, what does that mean?
basically, there are people feel there's three genders. Like, you are born with either being male or female, but your mind does not always agree with what your body is. There is non-binary, which is they don't identify as either male or female. There's male, obviously, and there's female, obviously.
Okay. Yeah, because when I've been signing up for social media, trying to get the podcast out there, I'm noticing now, it's like, are you female? Are you male? Are you whatever you are?
I would have to say, because
I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm just male.
I've tried checking that box on the internet just to see what would happen, and sometimes if I've noticed that the box doesn't work. And I can't remember on what websites it didn't work, but it didn't work. So it was really offensive.
Well, that's sad that you've had that experience. With me, when I've clicked that box, because I don't want Infusion to be considered anyone, because me and Chris are doing this as co-hosts,
Yeah.
It's asked a little further questions of how do you actually refer yourself as? Are you a they? Are you a are? Are you a them? How do you refer yourself as?
Well, see, one of the things I've been, and one of the things I like to tell people is that we and being African American and being in a biracial relationship, one of the things that's always happened to me. I'm gonna tell you a story. Back when I was in high school, there was a kid. I'm not gonna say his full name, but his name was John. He wasn't gay or anything like that, but he kind of dressed different than everybody else. And everybody talked about, man, he wears this, he wears this. He's actually a nice guy. He was from Sweden, had family in Sweden, stuff like that. So everybody kind of made fun of the kid. And I was like, I had a study hall with him, and I was talking to him. I'm like, what kind of music do you listen to in Sweden? Turned out he was a big reggae fan. And we had this long conversation about reggae. And it hit me there is that we always like to put down what we don't understand. And and that's with Ellie coming on the show. I don't know anything about transit, but having it on and having her on and having these conversations, and when you talk to people and you get to understand people, you get to think, okay, this is what they're about. Like I was at the gym and there was an Asian guy there, and he we worked out together, and he tattooed Madonna on his arm, and the bars he was going to, I'm like, those are gay bars. He's like, well, I got to tell you something. I'm like, I think I know. He goes, what? I go, you're gay. And he said to me a few weeks later, he goes, what I like about you? You don't care. It's like, but what I found was that they all want the same thing. We all want the same thing. We all want this significant other. We all want to, like straight people, we want a woman who don't drive them crazy. Rach, can't hear. No. And, we're all looking for that soulmate, but it's okay to love who you love. And as parents, we gotta accept this, and we gotta look at this and go, okay, hey, our kids are bisexual, but how do we move forward with this? Because this is something I've never dealt with, as a parent, but I accept it, and I don't want them out, thinking they got to be away from me or run away, beyond, and that's what happens to a lot of them when they leave their family and they end up dead or they end up hurting for people not accepting. Go ahead, Zoe. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, that's fine. But Denzel's like not bi. Like he's not bi. He's what again?
I'm polysexual. Yeah. It is part of. It's one of the umbrella heads underneath bisexual, because both asexual and transsexual, transgender both have their umbrella underneath.
Yeah, but also not to say that everyone wants a significant other, because there are asexual people who don't look for like a relationship, or they do, right? Explain it more.
Okay, asexual just means that ultimately that they just don't feel any sexual attraction to anybody. So that doesn't mean that romantically they don't want a partner. It just means that sexually they don't find anyone attractive, so that you actually just need to talk to somebody. And that also has some umbrella ones, which is called demisexual, which means as time goes on, they get to know the person, they might find them sexually attractive. It's just a matter of time for them.
But what I found out and stuff I've seen on asexual is that a lot of them have lower testosterone than other men, or other females have low, and that's what makes them not interested in either sex, because they produce lower testosterone than the average person.
But not always in asexual. Some people have been hurt and seeing other relationships fail. You gotta know yourself enough to know why you are who you are, so that you can be your own self advocate, even in choosing what you want to be, and the LGBTQ, even straight community.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, and that's what I was saying too. I mean, you can any idiot can go and put somebody down because of who they are. But have you ever even tried to talk to the person? Have you ever, where I work at, there's a teacher. Again, I can't say his name, but he's gay, and we talk about he actually has kids. I think he was one that married, did the straight thing, and found out But anyways, he turns out we were part of the same music scenes back in the 80s, and we talk music all the time. Knows a lot of music, and great guy. Nice guy. But that's the thing, when you actually talk to somebody, you actually get to know this person. These people are no different from us. It's just when this person goes home, he goes home to a guy. You go home to a woman or two or three. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, I don't know this much about like the LGBTQ community, and I totally forgot the name, but there are people who people who date multiple people, or
that's outside of the LGBT.
That is?
So, yeah, that is polygamy. That's what I was looking for.
I thought it was polysexual.
Polygamy is when you're married to two women at the same time, or you're married to multiple women,
or men,
or men. Yeah,
It's actually, funny enough, it is illegal in the United States to be married to multiple. So polygamy in the United States is very much illegal.
Well, it's not necessary. Well, yes, it's illegal, but people are still doing it.
Especially in Salt Lake, which we were a couple years ago.
So, so you will find shows like that on the TV. So, I mean.
I tried to be polygamy, but I couldn't take the pain. Rachel kicking my ass every day, and
I would definitely,
I was like, I can't take this no more. I better just stick to one.
I would kick your butt, I'd kick her butt, and I'd kick everybody else's butt that's in the house.
Yep.
And while you're kicking everybody's butt, you think I'm gonna be there?
You better run for your life.
Wrong, Boris.
Good
wrong.
But that's the thing. That's the thing about polygamy too. Is like a bunch of women all arguing at the same time, and you're the only dude there. It's like not the party I want to be at. Okay.
You got a cup.
Exactly. I wouldn't drink anything with me.
So poly would be
polygamy would be not included. It's just that's how you feel like you're able to express the most amount of love.
So poly is.
So, you guys, as you can see, that's we've been extremely open with our children, with our education, but that's where you guys need to be too. You need to have that open communication and education with your children.
Yeah, educate. Like she's like Rich just said educate with your children, but educate yourself. Know about it,
So don't be closed-minded. Have those conversations.
Because I think statistically speaking, 1 out of every 5 family may have a kid who's gay or bisexual or whatever. So be accepting of who the person is or who your kid is, and you just gotta take it one step at a time. I know it's hard. Trust me, I know it's hard.
There's a saying: you never know what your words could do to somebody else. So love as much as you can.
Another thing that you guys do that I find is so amazing. I hope that as a future father in the future, that I can bring that is a love for knowledge. That's something that you have pushed into all of your kids, is to not just listen to you guys, but to search out our own knowledges for our own selves, to better ourselves.
But I feel like you could like enlighten us more, but I also feel like we could also enlighten ourselves more.
Yeah.
Because like there's some things that I still don't know. But you guys do try.
We don't know either.
Yeah, I know. But,
And like you're 17, you're young.
no, that's why I said.
No, exactly. Yeah, right. Exactly. And you're 17. You're about to go into the gay 90s, like wake up eyes.
All right, talking about the gay 90s, I think we should start getting.
You've never been there either, have you?
I was on the
I've been in there.
Oh, have we now?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
You'd be surprised. Back in the day, me and my friend, a fellow comedian, a friend of mine by the name of Ben, we used to go there and we used to meet women. It was let's just say the pickings were very easy because a lot of the guys were gay. So
It's a good time though, and you'll see
very, very, very powerful drinks. A friend of mine, Fancy Ray, the one and only, he loves drinking the gay 90s because back when he drank, he was like, man, the drinks are very strong here.
But it's a good time and it's a good experience. So, and there's no hate there. I've never once walked in there and not had a good time.
Yeah, that's true, but I've walked in there and it's kind of been weird for me because it's like you walk in there and you kind of like you gotta like you don't want to make eye contact with anybody because you're like in some. But then once I got used to going in there, I was like, okay, yeah, and everybody pretty much knew that hey, he's straight, like that. But and that's one of the things about being straight. I got to say something for the straight people. A lot of people like, oh, you're straight, and getting on, oh, you're straight. I'm not ashamed of being straight. Okay. I respect who you like. I respect what you're into and all that, but you shouldn't have to come back at me for being straight. I'm straight. I'm happy to be straight. I like women. I'm not going to be ashamed of it, and that's the same thing with on the other side too, is that don't be ashamed of who you are. If that's who you want to are. And that's the lifestyle you want to lead.
Yeah.
Don't be ashamed of it.
Like, don't just feel like it's the straight side that's doing all the hatred. It's both sides. I literally am currently in a relationship with a woman. If there are some LGBTQ people that are like, oh, if you're in a relationship with the opposite gender, why aren't you in a relationship with the same gender? Mm-hmm. It's just, and that's mainly targeted by people. And
well, you tell that person it's none of your business.
Exactly. That's pretty much what you have to say.
Exactly. But not only that, with Rach, your sister's married to a new, I call them sister, and they got 4 kids now.
Yeah, I think that's another thing that's recently started being accepted, that they have families and people aren't being as hateful against that, and I think that's loving too. And
psychologically speaking, there hasn't been any long-term effects or any long-term effects, psychologically speaking, on kids that have been raised by same-sex marriages. The data isn't out yet. I'm not, from what I understand, last I know, they don't have enough. It hasn't been long enough that this has been going on. There haven't been enough data collected to find out if it affects the kid. But so far, they haven't found any long-term effects on kids who were raised by same-sex relationships.
But my take on that is, if you are grown in a loving house, it doesn't matter who your parents are.
Yeah.
Love, I think what you say is love over nurture or something like that.
Love.
And love unconditionally.
What's a loving house?
Well, it needs to be stable. It has to be. The kids need to know that they can come to you and be cared for and educated and over anything.
What's a stable house?
You need to stop. Oh
No,
my
it's
goodness.
one of the things. It's like, okay, me growing up, I mean, there was good times, there was bad times. But then I look at my, you think, oh my God, I got it rough. Then you look at another friend who's like, he has it worse than you. And then when you get older, you find out he's doing this, you're doing this. And you find out one thing, he's like, you know what? We're all messed up. Nobody had the perfect childhood, you know?
True, very true.
But if you can come to your parents, know that you're still loved.
Yeah,
Good,
exactly.
Who cares if your mom is? I mean, you got a mom, dad.
Yeah.
Like, who cares?
Well, interesting story about that is there was like one time I was like 20, 25, 26 or something like that. And I remember I was just like, I didn't know what to do with my life. I didn't know what's going on. I was like, okay, let me go to my dad's office and talk to him. So I went to my dad's office and we went into his office, closed the door and we talked. And I was just like, I know what he's going to say, blah, 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 the same old crap. And we actually sat there, had a great conversation. He said, this is what you need to do. This is what you need. This is where you're at. This is what you need to do. This is you got this, you got this. And I actually walked out there and said, hey, you know what? I was so glad I did that. You know?
Right?
I was so glad I did that. Because, as a young 20-something, you're a hothead and all that. And you're thinking, yeah, he's going to say, but when it happened, I was just like, man, that was a great meeting. I was so glad I had it. And it did put me, he didn't just say the stuff I thought he was going to say. We actually sat down and we actually talked, and it turned out to be a good thing,
Well, you guys, we went 6 minutes over our time that we were going to. I want to thank Denzel and Zoe for coming. And you guys, in 2 days, we got Ellie. So thank you for joining this podcast. And Chris, you can close it up.
All right, thanks a lot for joining us for Infusion, the podcast. Also, too, if you want to check us out, you want to see some of our some of the interviews we've done. We a few weeks ago we interviewed a lady, Bridget Penner.
She'll be on there next week.
Next week. So check out our YouTube channel. You can check out our YouTube channel. It's Infusion Health at YouTube. What is it at our YouTube channel, Rach?
loveinfusionhealth@gmail.com.
Loveinfusionhealth@gmail.com. We'd like to thank you so much for joining us for Infusion, the podcast. I'm comedian Chris Patrick, a.k.a. Superclaim Palmer, and my host and significant other, Rach.
Okay, see you guys.
See ya.